Today's lecture is on magnesium, and it looks like I have dots covering my face, so let me fix that. Food sources of magnesium: whole grains, vegetables, nuts, seeds, chocolate, you're welcome, meat, hard tap water. I think that about covers it. I don't know if I said seeds, but seeds. Magnesium can interact with other nutrients. It can inhibit phosphorus absorption. It influences balance of extracellular and intracellular potassium. It's excreted primarily in the urine, but that depends on the plasma concentrations. It's usually found in the feces unabsorbed, and you may lose some magnesium when you sweat. So if you're exercising on a 90-degree day, chances are you're going to lose some magnesium through sweating. In terms of digestion and absorption, there's two systems for absorption, and it depends on the intakes. So with low magnesium intakes, the primary transport absorption system is carrier-mediated active transport. If there are higher intakes, the magnesium is absorbed through diffusion. About 30 to 60% of dietary magnesium is absorbed. For transport of magnesium, it's usually, half of it's usually in the free form. 20 to 30% is bound to albumin or globulin, and 5 to 15% will be complex with a negatively charged ion. For homeostasis, the kidneys are in charge here. They control magnesium losses in response to plasma concentrations. The bones serve as a reservoir. I talked about the bones being a bank when I talked about calcium. Similar situation. And the plasma concentrations of magnesium will be maintained at the expense of bones, as calcium is. PTH, parathyroid hormone, influences magnesium balance. It plays a role in bone mineralization, and it's part of the crystal lattice. I don't know if you've ever seen an actual picture of an osteoclast, a bone cell, but it actually has a honeycomb structure. That's what it reminds me of. It's also important for enzymatic reactions and participates in over 300 enzyme reactions, and it's a cofactor, or what we call an allosteric activator. Other roles: blood clotting, hormone receptor binding. There's a number of different roles that magnesium plays. In fact, I thought this was interesting: insulin production, release, and action. So if you have low magnesium levels, your insulin levels may not be where they need to be or where they should be. Recommended dietary allowance I've listed for you. It does vary with gender, age, and whether or not an individual is pregnant. Deficiency is relatively common, I guess you could say, in hospitalized individuals. They think that it's underestimated in the general population, and it's one of those minerals where even though plasma concentrations are normal, the tissues may actually be deficient or low. You may have low. Sorry about that, the phone rang. I'm on the do not call list and people still call. I don't understand that. You know, the telemarketers are, quite frankly, I think some of them are scams, but let's continue. So, low levels of magnesium, I'll try to say it, but I never get it right. Hypomagnesemia. You try and say it, see how you do. Some of the metabolic effects: a decreased parathyroid hormone, low levels of calcium, potassium, and calcitriol concentrations. We will see low magnesium levels in something called refeeding syndrome. So in an individual who has not eaten for a long period of time, magnesium levels as well as potassium levels can plummet. And that is not a good thing. It has cardiac implications, which is my next point on the slide. There are issues with cardiovascular symptoms when you have low magnesium levels, when you're deficient. Factors that can contribute to deficiency: well, starvation state and then rapid refeeding without monitoring these labs. This was first actually found when people were liberated from prisoners of war were liberated. They encountered this rapid refeeding syndrome when people started to eat very quickly after they had been starved for a prolonged period of time. Inadequate intake: obviously, if you're not taking enough of those food sources which contain magnesium, you're going to have lower levels. Alcohol kind of ruins everything. That interferes with magnesium metabolism as well. malabsorptive disorders. Certain medications can bind magnesium. And if you have uncontrolled diabetes and metabolic syndrome, that poses a threat to your magnesium homeostasis. Heart disease actually develops more quickly if you have a chronic deficiency, so keep that in mind. Toxicity, it's not going to show up. You're not going to get toxic by eating too many chocolate bars. You'll have other problems, but it won't be magnesium toxicity. The kidneys can get rid of it pretty quickly. The upper limit is 350 milligrams per day from non-food sources, so I'm talking about a supplement, not recommended. If you take in excessive mag salts, mag citrate, we use for people who are constipated, it will lead to diarrhea and dehydration. And you really don't want to give magnesium salts to somebody who has renal disease, kidney impairment. How do we assess Nutritur? So how do we know whether or not you're deficient? Serum concentrations aren't that accurate. Let's just put it that way. Again, they may be normal at the expense of low levels in the tissue. You can measure renal excretion, but I can guarantee they're not going to do this in a clinical setting. It's cost prohibitive, and I don't believe it's even one of your options you have when you order labs, but those are your two choices. And that concludes my lecture on magnesium.